Harmony Korine's 2012 Spring Breakers is a polarizing film. Its main criticisms are its fluctuating plot, constant repetition, and nonsensical conclusion. In this video, I'll be analyzing the story, its characters, and its theme. Hopefully after watching you'll have a different view or greater appreciation, even if you didn't like the film. Fair warning, this analysis contains spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film, I suggest you watch it first before viewing this video. Harmony Korine is a filmmaker known for pushing boundaries. At age 19, he wrote the screenplay Kids for Larry Clark, and in 1997 made his directorial debut with the odd, funny, and disturbing Gummo. His preceding films, Julie and Donkey Boy, Mr. Lonely, and Trash Humpers, could all be described like Gummo. Not for everyone. So when it was announced he'd be directing a crime thriller with James Franco and Disney stars Vanessa Hudgens and Selena Gomez, no one knew what to expect. What were the stars of Wizards of Waverly Place and High School Musical doing in a rated R film about drugs and robbing spring breakers? Audience members who weren't familiar with Korine's work may have been expecting a straight exploitation thriller, but they got something different. In Spring Breakers, fantasy and reality are one and the same. Korine used French cinematographer Benoit Debie, who shot both Irreversible and Enter the Void for Gaspar Noé. Debie was able to capture the subjective hyper-reality these girls live in. Korine has described Spring Breakers as a liquid narrative, and shot the entire film like a music video. The editing moves like an EDM song, doubling back and repeating on the same scenes. Spring Breakers' very loose plot is about four college girls: Faith, played by Selena Gomez, Cotty, played by Rachel Corrin, Candy, played by Vanessa Hudgens, and Britt, played by Ashley Benson. The theme of Spring Breakers has to do with reality crossing into fantasy, and vice versa. Its use of bridges also plays into that symbolism. So let's start with bridges and how they relate to this story. Faith is a religious teen and the most innocent of the four girls. She's a good girl, yet she's as seduced as her friends are by the hedonistic lifestyle that's sold to them by American pop culture. Faith laments this fantasy in an early scene, because the reality is they're all too broke to go on spring break.
Everybody's miserable here because everybody sees the same things. They wake up in the same bed, same houses, same depressing streetlights.
Faith's church group friends warn her of Candy and Britt in one of the film's early scenes.
Be careful. Why?
Those girls are scary, yeah.
No. Especially Britt and Candy.
Faith ponders this but decides to cross her first bridge in the following scene. She wants to taste the fantasy that American culture has promised her. Her friends Britt and Candy decide to rob a restaurant to pay their way to spring break. Candy tells Britt,
Just fucking pretend like it's a video game.
the first time we see the robbery, it's shot in one long take from Cotty's point of view. The reality. The second time is told in flashback in a quick handheld montage. The fantasy. Notice how the first clip is quiet and almost mundane, and the second clip is violent and sensationalized. It's this deed that pays the girls' way to spring break, and in the next scene they cross their next bridge into St. Petersburg, Florida. Once they arrive, the fantasy begins. Faith calls her grandma in one scene, yet her monologue contradicts what's on screen. Then it's back to reality. The girls are arrested after throwing a drug-fueled party, and the photography goes from being oversaturated and surreal, then back to stark and realistic. After the girls are arrested, the film introduces Alien, who bails them out, and then the next part of our story begins. Alien, brilliantly played by James Franco, is a southern white rapper and drug dealer. The character truly is alien to these girls' world and represents everything they want: money, hedonism, and instant gratification, but in the shortest way possible. In one of the film's more uncomfortable scenes, Alien tempts Fate into staying in a psychotic playground. You saw this life in music videos. Well, now let's live it for real. But the reality is too much for Faith to handle. And if we go back to the film's earlier scene, her youth pastor says,
In closing, we're going to read one more verse, and I'm going to read from 1 Corinthians 10:13. It says, But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. How cool is that?
Faith sees through Alien's false illusions and decides this is a bridge she's not willing to cross. She leaves her friends and crosses back on the same bridge that brought them into St. Petersburg. Once Faith leaves, the three remaining girls fully embrace the dream that is spring break. Alien introduces them to his world by displaying all his possessions in one of the film's funnier scenes.
Look at my shit. This ain't nothing. I
I got rooms of this shit. I got my dark tannin oil. Lay out by the pool, put on my dark tannin oil.
From then on, the movie becomes a full-out fantasy. The Britney Spears montage is not only beautifully shot, but it also captures the girls' state of mind. They all see themselves like characters in a movie or video game. At this point, nothing feels real. To them, it's all still a game. But they're about to get a second reality check. Alien's childhood friend Archie, played by rapper Gucci Mane, is not happy about Alien taking his piece of the American dream. Archie is the bigger of the two fish, and after a couple of confrontations, his crew shoots and wounds Cotty. Like her friend Faith, Cotty gets the ultimate wake-up call. She takes a bullet to the arm. Realizing what she's dealing with isn't a game, there's no replay button because this is real life. Cotty decides to leave, crossing back on the same bridge that Faith crosses back on. The fantasy for her is over. But for the two remaining girls, Britt and Candy, the fantasy is only beginning. They push Alien into retaliating against Archie, but Alien knows Archie is a real threat and seems reluctant to follow through. This might be a bridge even Alien doesn't want to cross. The two girls tease at his bravado. In one scene, he hypes himself up to ultimately commit the final act. In the film's climax, the trio crosses a neon-lit bridge into Archie's house. Alien finally meets reality by taking a bullet to the head, but Britt and Candy go all the way, murdering everyone. The violence is exaggerated and artificial, playing out like a clip from Grand Theft Auto. In fact, if you watch this scene, think of it in the context of a video game. They spray through all the bad guys' bodyguards and level up to the leader's house, on to the last level. And the prize for beating this game is Archie's Lamborghini. The film's disturbing ending wraps up with the two girls' final phone call home, and just like Faith's earlier scene, their words contradict the images we're seeing on screen. They're fully immersed in the fantasy on another level, and then cross one final bridge that they'll never be able to return from. The film evolved from the consequences being low, then getting higher, and in the final shot we see the girls' troubled faces, because the next reality check they'll face will probably be even higher. So why would Korine end the film on such a strange note? Why don't we see the two girls getting caught? Because the two girls are the last remaining characters in the film. They see themselves as heroes of their own story, so the film is emphasizing their state of mind. Korine doesn't let us off the hook that easy. There's no moral explanation point on the film, rather an open-ended question mark. Spring Breakers is an exploitation film because it delivers on what the poster promised. TNA, violence, sex, language, drugs, but it's also an art film that's commenting on the badness it's portraying. Korine sets up a story with expectations, and then subverts those expectations. He made a good choice casting Disney actors Gomez and Hudgens because the film comments on the perversion of their generation's culture. Spring Break in the film represents a warped version of the American dream, a culture that rewards bad behavior, glamorizes the superficial, and is devoid of any real truth or substance. It's more about what you're wearing or what you're driving that really matters. Like Alien, the girls appropriate the hip-hop culture they see in YouTube videos, but fail to see the reality of that culture. In the end, it's not about what's real, but about living that illusion. I'm Jeremy Hamley, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.